Hi, my name is Orla. In this channel I'll be reading short stories for children and adults who are interested. In today's video I'll be reading again from Irish Myths and Legends. Great book, highly recommend, fabulous illustrations. These stories are retold by Joe Potter with fabulous illustrations by Erin Brown. And today's story is going to be Fionn and the Salmon of Knowledge, another Irish classic. First picture is Fionn as a baby. It starts off a little sad, but yeah. Okay, so cuddle down, get cozy, and let's begin. So Fionn and the Salmon of Knowledge. Once upon a half-forgotten time, there lived a little boy, a boy who would one day grow up to be a great leader of the Fianna, a warrior, Fionn. His father was Cumhaill, leader of the Fianna, the king's special army. Cumhaill was the mightiest of them all, but the other warriors were jealous and plotted against him. One day they seized their chance and they murdered him. Cumhall's wife was so afraid for her baby son that she took Fionn to a cave in the Slieve Bloom Mountains to two women called Bobdal and Fionn. One was a druid and the other was a warrior. They took care of Fionn, taught him spells and how to defend himself. So in that first picture that I showed you, Mum's crying, saying goodbye to the baby Fionn, and then there are the two ladies looking after him. Okay. But before a boy can use a sword, he must use his mind, for the mind is mightier than 1,000 swords. If he was to be a great leader one day, he must have a great mind. So the women sent him to live with the wisest of all men. Some called him Finnicus, others Finnegas, but there was no mistaking him. Everybody knew him. He was the poet who lived on the banks of the river Boyne, a sage, the man who knew things. He knew the secrets of the birds and the planets and the stars, and much, much, much more. And when he spoke, his words were beautiful, dancing and jumping around each other, picked out of paradise to fall on your ear. And so it was that Bobdal and Fionn sent Fionn alone across ancient Ireland to seek out the famous Finnegas. Fionn was only a boy, but he travelled for many miles to find the old man. After 3 days and 3 nights of walking across the country, he reached the River Boyle. Fionn had never seen Finnegas before, but he knew him when he saw him. The old man was sitting under an old chestnut tree on the bank, fishing in the river. He was far away, but Fionn could hear him reciting poetry to the water. His appearance gave him away. With his white robe and sandals, long white beard and bushy eyebrows, he looked like the wisest man in the world. Fionn ran over to Finnegas, but was suddenly struck with nerves, unable to talk. Finnegas looked up and considered Fionn kindly. So far you have come over the hill and dale, over river and fjord and meadow pale. So far you have come across valley and peak. Tell me, boy, what do you seek? Wisdom, O wise Finnegas. Wisdom is a hard fish to catch. She wriggles in your hands and slaps you in the face, gets you all wet and jumps all over the place. Fionn thought Finnegas might be a bit mad, but he was clever enough to know that a spark of madness can often hide wisdom. But wisdom is not everyone's game, said Finnegas. Tell me, boy, what is your name? Fionn McCool. Finnegas thought for a moment. He knew the family that Fionn came from. He knew the boy would one day be a great leader, and it would be wise to create a wise leader. However, Finnegas had a problem. He spent so much time thinking on the bank and reciting poetry that his house was falling into ruin. There was dirty pots and pans everywhere, and old books and scrolls littered the floor. There was half-eaten food, spiderwebs and more. There was dead flowers in the vase, smelly things on the table, and mud on the floor. All manner of mess infested his house. Unfortunately, Finnegas hated cooking and cleaning and all things involving ordinary work, and besides he couldn't think well while tidying, so Finnegas thought for a while, then announced a plan for Fionn. I will tell you what I know in exchange for your time. Will you cook and clean and keep my house in line? Most certainly, wise Finnegas, I will, said Fionn, jumping for joy. Oh, nearly forgot. That is Finnegas with the birds and Fionn. Yeah. And so it began. Fionn cleaned Finnegas's house every day from top to bottom. He cooked Finnegas meals for breakfast, lunch and dinner. He washed his clothes, he did his ironing, he scrubbed and swept, and a million things beside. Finnegas marvelled at the boy. However quickly he could make a mess, Fionn could clean it faster. Fionn worked so hard because he had endless questions in his heart. As soon as he had finished a task, he would run out to Finnegas on the bank and ask a question about the world. Finnegas answered his questions as thoroughly as Fionn cleaned the house. He told him the secrets of the birds and the planets and the stars. He told him stories from every corner of the world. He told him fables and fairy tales and every poem he knew until Fionn could recite them backwards. But the more Finnegas told him, the more Fionn wanted to know. Finnegas was a very wise man indeed, but he knew a great many things. But he did not know everything. There came a time when Finnegas simply couldn't answer any more of Fionn's questions. Is there a way to know everything? Fionn asked, when Finnegas could no longer answer them. Finnegas had once asked this question himself, and it was the very reason he now lived on the banks of the Boyne. The story was as old to Finnegas as Finnegas is to you. It was said that the chestnut trees overhanging the river were once magical. One autumn, when the chestnuts fell into the river, they were gobbled up by a salmon. The salmon instantly gained all the knowledge in the world. And so according to the prophecy, the one who would catch and eat the salmon of knowledge would gain the knowledge for themselves. Interesting. Finnegas had moved to the banks in hope of catching the salmon of knowledge. He had fished the river every day for years and years. He caught pike and trout, bass and perch, eel and carp, shad and snapper, but not a nibble from the salmon of knowledge. Decades passed, and Finnegas began to wonder if there was even a salmon of knowledge. There is a way. It lies in the pool, the salmon of knowledge, I've heard it called. If you wish to know it all, catch it and eat it, and your mind will be filled. Finnegas passed his fishing rod over to Fionn. The boy settled by the river and waited for the salmon of knowledge, but he had no more luck than Finnegas. He caught pike and trout, bass and perch, eel and carp, shad and snapper, but not a nibble from the salmon of knowledge. Fionn was not patient like Finnegas, and after only a couple of days. He threw down the fishing rod in a rage. "This is impossible, Finnegas. The salmon does not exist." Finnegas sighed and picked up the fallen fishing rod as Fionn stormed back into the house. He spoke to the river. "One more time I'll cast my line. If he doesn't bite, the knowledge will never be mine." Finnegas picked out his brightest lure and hooked a particular juicy worm. He cast it out with a firm hand far into the river and waited and waited. He waited so long that he fell asleep. He slept for a long time. Hours later, he was suddenly wrenched out of his dreams. Something was pulling on the fishing line. Finnegas scrambled to reel in the fish. He reeled and reeled with all his might. He twisted this way and that till his muscles were sore, and then with one huge effort he yanked the fish from the depths of the water. Finnegas fell backwards as a huge salmon landed on his lap. Oh, look at that. He caught the salmon of knowledge. Yay! "I've got it! I caught it! That fabled fish! Fionn, come quick and put it in a dish!" Fionn ran out of the house and lit a fire as fast as he could. He was a little upset he hadn't caught the salmon himself, but Finnegas promised him he'll tell him all he knew once he had eaten the fish. However, he had some words of caution for him, for the knowledge could only pass to one person. "I caught it, boy. The knowledge is mine. Do not take one bite, one morsel. Heed my rhyme." While Finnegas ran off to fetch more firewood, Fionn cooked the fish for Finnegas and didn't eat a single bite. When Finnegas returned, Fionn had laid out the cooked salmon for him. Finnegas sat down and grabbed his knife and fork and was about to dig in when he noticed something in Fionn's eyes. There was a wisdom in their depth that he had not seen before. "Tell me, boy, did you take a bite? There's something in your eye. I see a new light." "I did not," protested Fionn. "You have not even tasted its skin. I see knowledge deep within." "Ooh." "I have not," replied Fionn. "But while turning the salmon on the spit, I burnt my thumb and I put it in my mouth to ease the pain." Look, while Fionn was cooking the salmon, he burnt his thumb and he put it in his mouth to ease the pain, cool it down. Finnegas's heart sank. "You have tasted the salmon of knowledge all the same, and upon you all the world's wisdom shall reign." He then ordered Fionn to eat all of the fish. However, when he had eaten every last bite, the boy didn't feel any wiser than he had before. The only new knowledge he had was from Finnegas himself. "I don't feel any different, right, Finnegas?" Finnegas was lost in sadness. He'd been so close to acquiring all the knowledge in the world, his heart's greatest desire. However, he roused himself and plumbed to the depths of his mind. "You put your thumb in your mouth to ease the pain? Place it there once more, and the knowledge you will gain." Fionn did as Finnegas said. He put his thumb in his mouth, and suddenly all the knowledge of the world rushed into his mind. He knew now and then, north and south. He knew here and there, east and west. He saw beyond the planets, beyond the stars, beyond everything that Finnegas knew. "It worked, Finnegas! I know all! I have been beyond farther than I can imagine." Fionn was overjoyed. All he had to do now to know all the secrets of the world was suck his thumb. However, now that he knew everything, Fionn felt lost. "What should I do now, Finnegas?" he asked. "You must go. There is nothing more I can teach you. Fulfill your destiny, boy, I beseech you." And so it was that Fionn left Finnegas and grew up to be a poet, a warrior, and the wisest and greatest of all Fianna leaders. Finnegas went back to his poetry and sharing all the knowledge he possessed. There was no shame in being the second wisest man in the world. The end. Now, here we go. Another great story. I hope you enjoyed that. Until the next one. Goodbye.